What's up, everybody? Before we get to the reading for this week, I just wanted to quickly touch on the fact that we've reached 10 of these already, which is kind of crazy because I'm trying to release one a week. So that means we've already hit 10 weeks of doing this, which it doesn't even feel like it. It's pretty great because it's been the most consistent I've been with writing in a while, so I'm really happy about that it's keeping me consistent with everything. And to anybody that does stumble upon these videos or catches them through my social media, I appreciate you checking it out. Thank you for watching it. If anybody has any feedback or anything like that, I'd love to hear it, whether it's in the comments of the video or on social media. If you want to send me a private message or just tag me or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm going to try to do something special for the milestones. Next one probably won't be until about chapter 25. But I'm going to try to do something for each of the big milestones. And hopefully by the time we reach like 50 of these or maybe 100 of these, if we go that far, hoping to get like a cool little art piece commissioned with a lot of the characters together. I think that would be pretty cool. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to transition over to the other scene where we do the normal readings. I'm going to just do that reading real fast, and that's it. Alright, the streets of Meldgarden were made mostly of metal and machinery. The sidewalks were still concrete, but the transition to making them metal as well had begun. Whenever a new crack or crevice became apparent or a resident complained about it, the Welton Company swooped in to fill it with metal sheets held down by nuts and bolts. The sewer system was normal as well, except for the fact that the entry points were lined with magic to make water flow more easily. Jagger drove his sports car back from Seva with River in the passenger seat. The ride was a silent one, as Jagger and River didn't always see eye to eye. A large building that took up an entire block with the words "The Welton Company" on the front was where Jagger pulled into a parking lot. The building itself was mostly made of metal, with numerous large windows scattered throughout the design of the building. After parking, Jagger turned off the car and sighed. "I hope we did the right thing," he said. "We took care of the situation with minimal casualties." River opened her door and got out. Jagger did the same. "At least the people of Seva know the stakes. If that Griswold guy wants his other twin back, he'll do as we say." Jagger put his keys into his pocket, then began walking toward the building. River walked up beside him. "Get your mask back on. It's important for us to keep up appearances." River had her mask still on from the events that just transpired at Seva. Jagger took her advice and put his mask back on. Two Welton Company members entered through the front doors of the Welton Company headquarters. The lobby of the building was like that of a hotel. There were so many people inside that Jagger wondered if all these people even worked for the Welton Company. The design of the interior of the building was mostly white and gray. The white portions of the walls and doors were exceptionally bright and gave the building a very heavenly look. The moment River and Jagger entered the building, everyone that was talking amongst themselves stopped and stared. This was something that they were used to, but it still made situations awkward. "Come on, carry on," Jagger said loudly as he waved his hands. After he spoke, everyone went back to their conversations. "The attention always makes me feel weird," said River with a whisper in Jagger's general direction. "I love the attention, but it gets annoying sometimes." Jagger looked around as he made his way to a nearby elevator. "I honestly don't know who half these people are." The two got on the elevator and rode it up to the 19th floor. Compared to the lobby they just came from, the 19th floor was quiet. A blonde-haired woman emerged from one of the rooms on the floor with a clipboard in her hands, but the moment she locked eyes with Jagger, she scurried to her destination, a room down the hall, and entered it quickly and closed the door. "Some adore and some fear," River said with a shrug. "Feels like the higher you go up in the floors in this building, the more people know how messed up some of the stuff we do is. Not like we have much of a choice." Jagger and River walked down to the middle of the hallway they were in. Jagger knocked on one of the doors but got no response. He knocked again. "Hey, it's me." River noticed Jagger stared at her for answers. "Doubt it's locked," she said. Jagger turned the doorknob and opened the door slowly. The room's lights were on and the bright white walls looked ever brighter than normal. However, the walls in the back of the room were splattered with touches of red. Jagger let River enter, then quickly closed the door behind her. The gargoyle was standing in front of the wall with the red. His arms were folded as per usual, but Jagger noticed blotches of red blood on the gargoyle's suit. Raisha sat on a white table in front of him that had handprints of blood where Raisha leaned. Her long orange hair hung down onto the table, and she was kicking her legs back and forth like an innocent child. La la la, la la, la 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 la. Raisha sang a soft, gentle song in the tune of a lullaby as she continued to kick her feet. She slowly waved a knife around in her hand as she sang. What the hell did you do? Jagger finally got to the table and looked over. Whoever blood was on the walls, their clothes, and the table was pummeled so badly that they were no longer recognizable. It was literally a pile of squashed skin, blood, guts, and one semi-intact leg. What the? Jagger looked away and covered where his mouth would be on his mask. Raisha. River looked at the gargoyle, then at Jagger before bringing her eyes to the back of Raisha's head. Who is that? Was, right? Who was that? Raisha laughed. This was what's her name? Eleanor? Or was this one Sandra? You killed the twin? Jagger yelled. That was our leverage over the people left in Seva. They don't have to know she's dead, Raisha said, defending her actions. She stood up off the table and tried not to step in the blood. When she turned around, some of Eleanor's blood was on her mask and pants. The knife she was holding had blood on it as well, and Jagger noticed even more blood on the gargoyle's hands. What if they asked to see her, some kind of proof that she's still alive? Asked River. She was doing her best not to look at the mess behind the table. Raisha let out an exasperated sigh. Does it really matter? If they don't tell us about Mavis showing up, Mavis will just kill them anyway. If they make a big fuss about Ella saying, seriously, which one is this? It's Eleanor, Jagger said coldly. Was Eleanor. The mouth on Raisha's mask formed another sick smile. Even if they make a big deal about this whole situation, we'll handle it. The way you handled this? Jagger shook his head. You always tell me not to screw things up, but this is a pretty bad screw-up. We don't go around murdering people for sport. There was literally no reason to kill Eleanor. She was our leverage. Look, the big man and I just wanted to have some fun. Raisha shook the knife in front of her face and some of Eleanor's blood came off. We didn't do anything wrong. This doesn't change the situation as much as you think. You're unhinged. Jagger began to walk out of the room. Don't say it, River said. Jagger turned back to face Raisha. You're a psychopath. River sighed. Now you've done it. Raisha's sharp teeth smile vanished in an instant. I'm a psychopath? I'm a psychopath? I'm the glue that holds this operation together. Raisha's fist tightened, and she began jumping up and down, throwing a tantrum. You're just proving my point by reacting this way. I'm out of here. Jagger walked out of the room and slammed the door. The moment it closed, Raisha threw the knife she was holding so that it stuck in the door. Oh, I can't stand him. Raisha pushed her hair out of her face. It had gotten disheveled in the commotion. Jagger is a liability, but I don't think I need to remind you that Mr. Welton picked Jagger for this team himself. We can't do anything about it. River wanted to look back at the gargoyle, but her eyes caught a glimpse of what used to be Eleanor, and it made her queasy. Either way, I think it's best for us to get this room cleaned up. We need to figure out how to handle all these blue elves running around. Outside the room, Jagger made his way back to the elevator. He got inside and pushed the button for the lobby. Instead, the elevator took him to the basement level. That's not what I pressed. He hit the lobby button again, but the doors of the elevator wouldn't close. Come on, I just want to get outside. Not yet, I'm afraid. A man was standing just outside the elevator. He had on a dark blue suit, his hair was dark brown, and the right cheek of his face was replaced by metal. Anvil, Jagger nodded. Why are you in the basement? Waiting for you, of course. Mr. Welton wants to speak with you. In the basement? Jagger slowly stepped out of the elevator and looked around him. The area they were in was dark, and only a single light helped Jagger see Anvil's face. Anvil didn't answer Jagger's question. Instead, he walked into the darkness in front of them, and Jagger followed. After a few seconds of walking, a bright light emerged in the distance and helped guide them. They entered into a laboratory that had the same bright white walls and lights as the rooms above. Wow, Jagger said, coming to an abrupt stop after entering. How long has this been here? Ah, Jagger. An old man with glasses and short white hair waved Jagger over. Anvil, thank you for fetching Jagger for me. Anytime, sir. Anvil bowed. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. While Anvil and Mr. Welton spoke to each other, Jagger took time to take in his surroundings. The laboratory stretched on for longer than Jagger could see. He assumed it was the entire length of the building. As if the lobby didn't have enough employees, Jagger didn't recognize there was an entire new team of employees down in the lab. Most notably was a small, dark-skinned, middle-aged woman that was working right beside Mr. Welton. She was configuring one of the magical spheres that were making the rounds in Novessa lately. Jagger walked over to Mr. Welton. The leader of the company stuck out his hand and shook Jagger's. Sir, with all due respect, why bring me down here? I'm not much of a scientist. If I'm being honest, this old man didn't feel like traveling upstairs, so I figured it was easier to bring you to me. Mr. Welton laughed. I understand you accompanied the others to Seva. I was a bit surprised considering you failed to make it to any of the Barra shows and meetings that tend to follow. Jagger could feel the sweat beginning to form on his forehead under the mask. I'm sorry, sir. No need to defend yourself, Jagger. Mr. Welton put his hand on Jagger's shoulder. I know you helped this company and promoted in your own way. I respect that. If I felt it was an issue, we would have talked a lot sooner. You made first contact on this situation in Seva. What's your take on it? People have been living there since after the crisis. People believe Mavis is responsible for this big divide in the ground of Seva that's preventing some people from getting back to the main area of the city. A group has formed on that half, but they're more of a cult than a civilization. And Mavis, he's responsible for all the bodies in the area they call the lot. Jagger looked around at the other employees, but no one paid him or Mr. Welton any mind. Bodies, sir? I didn't see any bodies. Because you chose not to pursue the blue elf, the giant man, and the people with them. People of Seva were holding 2 women hostage and prepping them for execution when Mavis arrived and slaughtered everyone from Seva. I have reason to believe the 2 girls escaped with the others. How do you know all of this? Asked Jagger. I have eyes and ears everywhere, Jagger. The quicker you understand the scope of my knowledge, the easier these missions will be for you. Mr. Welton picked up one of the magic spheres. This one was smaller than the others. Details. The most important part of these missions I send you on are the details. I expect you to know everything about every place that I send you to. I'll do better next time, said Jagger. Mr. Welton clutched the sphere in his hand and pointed at Jagger's chest. You will. Reisha's methods may be unorthodox at times, but she is my most trusted employee because she gets results. Therefore, Reisha the Gargoyle will be handling all missions involving Seva and Mavis. You're taking me off the job? Jagger was about to continue to plead his case, but Mr. Welton interrupted him. I have a different task for you. When you arrived in Seva, there was a young girl strapped to a chair that escaped with the blue elf and the giant. She didn't seem very important, said Jagger. The details, Jagger, the details. She's a guard detective. I want you to watch her every move. I want to know where she goes, what she does, where she lives, who she interacts with. Mr. Welton put the smaller sphere down. I can do that, Jagger said. Good. Mr. Welton put both of his hands on Jagger's shoulders. It may not seem like it yet, but that girl's going to lead us right to Mavis.